today we are talking about getting started with after-school meals. So if you operate, work with, or support after-school programs, you may have heard that you can get help to serve meals and snacks to kids at no charge to them. You may also be wondering if this is too good to be true or how you can take advantage of this opportunity. So you have come to the right place. I'm here to tell you how you may be able to get your after-school program participating in the After-School Meals Program. The After-School Meals Program offers federal funding to help offset the cost of serving healthy meals and snacks to kids who attend after-school programs in low-income areas. This presentation will cover the basics of how the program works and give you some next steps to take. My name is Carolyn Waite, and I'm a Senior Program Manager here with No Kid Hungry's Center for Best Practices. And today we are going to cover just a quick background on No Kid Hungry if you're not familiar with us. Then we'll get into the benefits of serving after-school meals, the basics of how the program works, and again, those next steps to get started. So No Kid Hungry is committed to ending childhood hunger here in the U.S. by connecting kids to effective programs that get them the food they need. So that includes school breakfast, summer meal programs, and the reason we're here today, after-school programs. No Kid Hungry is a campaign of Share Our Strength, a nonprofit organization working to end hunger and poverty in the U.S. and abroad. And No Kid Hungry Center for Best Practices provides information, tools, and resources designed to end child hunger. So webinars like we're doing today, also print and digital resources. We have a whole website full of resources, and then one-on-one technical assistance as needed to help you get what you need to offer healthy meals and snacks to kids. So now we're going to talk about the benefits of after-school meals and why after-school programs should participate in this program. So you may already be bought in on the benefit of the program, but these statistics may be helpful if you're talking with other stakeholders about why you should offer this program. So we know from a survey of low-income parents that we did a few years ago that the vast majority of parents are providing food for their kids to eat after school. Kids are eating lunch early, they're busy with activities after school, parents are working late and not cooking dinner until late. So kids are eating after school, and parents spend an average of $743 over the course of the school year for their food for their kids to eat after school. And given that 1 in 6 kids lives in a household struggling with hunger, it's not surprising that we also found that 59% of low-income parents say it's financially difficult to provide food for their kids to eat after school. And 25% of low-income parents said that they worried that their child didn't have enough to eat between lunch at school and breakfast the following day. So in addition to kids just being busy and growing and learning and needing food to fuel everything that they do after school, there are unfortunately far too many children who may not have a healthy meal waiting for them at home later. And from working with after-school programs in schools across the country, we know that offering after-school meals can help to increase attendance at your program. Obviously, food is always a draw for everyone. It can also help to improve behavior because hungry kids can be more likely to be irritated and fight and not be focused. So offering that meal can really help to settle kids down and get them to focus. Along with that, it can enhance performance. We know one school nutrition director who works with the football coach who credits after-school meals with winning the football championship title because the kids had what they really needed to perform well for the first time and get all the nutrients they needed, especially for grueling workouts and games. It's also a nice perk for parents. So again, some parents may not be able to provide healthy meals for their kids. Even if they're able to, again, they may be working late, working multiple jobs, and just struggle to get that meal together. So knowing that their kids aren't hungry the minute they pick them up and get them home can be a great benefit. And then it can also help your bottom line by participating in the After-School Meals Program. You can get some funding to support offering those meals so you're not paying out of pocket for food to offer to your kids. So now we're going to cover the basics of the program. And this is kind of the 10,000-foot view and hopefully good for all of you visual learners. So the After-School Meals Program that I'm talking about is actually part of a broader program called the Child and Adult Care Food Program, which is a federal child nutrition program that was authorized by Congress, and it is overseen at the federal level by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. For those of you working in the after-school programming space and maybe familiar with congressional budget fights to get funding for after-school programming, know that the Child and Adult Care Food Program and the After-School Meals Program are a little bit different, and that the program is permanently authorized and funded. So this is not something that you have to worry about going away next year or the year after that. So going back to this flow chart, it's authorized by Congress, administered by the USDA at the federal level, and then each state has a different agency that runs the program within the state. It's often a Department of Education, it may be a Department of Health or Social Services or something like that. And then it's operated by what are known as sponsoring organizations. So they work directly with the state and implement the program. And then the after-school program is actually where the meals are served, where the kids are, where the programming is. So hopefully this gives you a better sense and orientation to how this program works. And now you may be wondering, what is an after-school meal? She keeps talking about it and saying this word, but what does that actually mean? So in this program, it does have a pretty particular meaning, and it is a meal that includes at least these 5 component items. So fruits, vegetables, grains, a protein item, and milk. So basically the 5 food groups as you see up there. And so it does not have to be a heavy meat and potatoes kind of meal. So there are lots of different options for what can fulfill this requirement. And it can be as easy as a half sandwich with turkey, apple slices, and carrot sticks with milk. You can even have like a snack box style meal with something like a fruit and yogurt parfait, granola, plus celery sticks with peanut butter along with milk. So again, it's a general kind of pattern to fit the different food groups, but there are a lot of options within it. And this next slide shows just a few different examples of what it could be. You know, there on the right and on the upper right and on the left, you see that you can have bagged or boxed meals, or you could have a tray, or you could offer multiple options for each of the different food groups and have a whole serving line that kids can go through and pick what they want. So again, there are lots of different options for what this looks like and what fits your needs, as long as they kind of fit that general pattern of offering the 5 food groups. And if you're worried and looking at these pictures that you have to do a ton of cooking or food prep and cutting and chopping, don't worry. If you don't have the capacity to cook on site, you could work with another organization that can provide meals to you, or you could work with a caterer or vendor. So it really just depends on, you know, what your capacity is, whether you have a kitchen on site, and what you want to do and what your preferences are for the kind of meals that you offer. And then I also just want to point out, if you're concerned about food waste with offering 5 items, you can minimize that with things like share tables and share bins. You're also able to sometimes do offer versus serve. So you offer all of those 5 items, and kids don't necessarily have to take all of them as long as they take at least 3 of them. So there are some different options, so you don't have to worry about force feeding, you know, more food than kids really want. And if you're curious, that picture on the left, it was the kids themselves who were meticulous in grouping all of the items and lining everything up. So if you're worried that kids could never be trusted to stay neat and tidy, know that actually kids can clean up after themselves and can use a share table effectively. And then if you want to offer snacks instead of or in addition to meals, you're able to do that through this program. And so a snack is any 2 of the 5 component groups there. So it could be something like berries or apple slices with yogurt, so that's a fruit and a protein food. Or it could be something like cheese and crackers. So there are a lot of different options, any 2 of those 5 kind of mix and match. So just so you know what we mean when we're talking about meals and when we're talking about snacks. So some key requirements to keep in mind. In order to operate through this particular kind of program through the Child and Adult Care Food Program, your program site must be located within the attendance zone of a public school where at least half of the students are eligible for free or reduced price meals. So you don't need to be based at a school yourself. And if you are based at a school, you don't necessarily have to use your own school's data. You can look at the other schools that you're zoned to attend. So you can use elementary school, middle school, or high school. It does have to be the public school unless you're a charter school or a private school yourself. But if you're a community location or a public school, you need to use public school data. And if you don't know what schools you're in the attendance zone of, I would recommend getting in touch with the local school district. Sometimes the school district will have an online tool that either shows maps, or you can type in an address and get back what schools you would go to, or you could call the school district and they can help you out and figure out where you're zoned to attend. And so then the next requirement is that after-school program sites have to offer regularly scheduled educational or enrichment activities in a structured and supervised environment. That may sound big and weighty, but it's actually much easier than you would think. So a lot of things count for educational and enrichment activities, and it can be as simple as just tutoring and homework help, but you can also do STEM activities, you can do mentoring and leadership development, you can do arts programs, whether that's the school theater or visual arts or anything like that. You can also do recreational physical activities. Competitive sports teams on their own don't qualify, but as long as there are other activities happening, then you can also include athletes. And so when we say structured and supervised, that also doesn't mean that you have to be a super formal program that follows a curriculum and measures outcomes and things like that. Obviously, that's great. But again, it just means that, you know, there is an adult present who's watching everyone, and that there's a plan for some activities to happen, not just a babysitting space necessarily, or just a meal site with nothing else happening. So again, there are a lot of flexibilities in what qualifies to meet that requirement. So don't be scared off by that, but there does need to be that educational or enrichment component as part of this. And then that last requirement up there is that the program site has to meet applicable state or local health and safety standards. If you are based at a school that participates in the National School Lunch Program, you've already done everything you need to meet that requirement. However, if you are located out in the community, you will have to do something. Oftentimes it's like a fire inspection and maybe sometimes like a health inspection. But that can really vary a lot by city, by county, and by state, and also based on the kind of food you want to serve. So if you're serving all cold or prepackaged foods, you may have a lower standard to meet than if you wanted to cook all hot meals. But we'll talk a little bit more about how you can try to figure out what that is along with those next steps. So also just want to mention a few things. We're talking a lot about after-school meals. But you can actually offer these meals not only on school days, but also on weekends, holidays, or breaks during the school year. The main guideline there is during the school year. You're not allowed to offer meals through this program during the summer. That said, there is the summer meals program that you can participate in during the summertime. So anyways, although we talk about after school all the time, it does not mean only on school days. So whether you have a weekend only program, or you also do things on the weekend, or you have a spring break camp, those are all times when you can be serving meals through this program. If it is a school day, it does have to be after the final bell, and you have to serve the meal during your regular program hours. So just because you offer some after school enrichment from 3 to 6 at a rec center does not mean you can serve a meal at 7 p.m. after your regular program ends. But that should be pretty self-explanatory, I think, for a lot of people that you would be serving the meal during your regular program hours. So the kids, who can you serve? You can serve after-school meals and snacks to kids and teens who are 18 or under as of the beginning of the school year. So you can serve little kiddos, you can serve teenagers, or you can serve a mix of ages all at one location. You're not necessarily required to serve that full range of kids. If your program is specifically geared towards young children or high schoolers, you can obviously just serve those kids, but the program is available to all kids and teens. There's no enrollment paperwork required, although you are allowed to require enrollment for your after-school programming. And no income information or other individual eligibility information is required from kids in order to participate. Because you've already gone through that proof that you're in a low-income area, they don't ask for anything else from the specific kids that you serve, which is great. And that enables you to get a good reimbursement rate for all of the meals and snacks without having to track individual kids and their eligibility for those meals. You are allowed to charge a fee for your after-school program, but you're not allowed to charge a separate fee for the meal. So that's just something else to keep in mind. All right, so now you're probably wondering, how do I actually get started? What am I supposed to do now? So first, I would consider what your options are for participating. And you can either participate independently, working directly with the state agency, or you can be a sponsored program working with a nonprofit organization. So if you think back to that chart that I showed towards the beginning, how there was the state agency, then a sponsor, then an after-school program, it's possible to kind of combine those last two steps and be both the sponsor and the after-school program together and work directly with the state agency. Or you can have another organization fill that sponsor role and you can just be the after-school program site. And if you work with a sponsor, that sponsor can oversee the paperwork only, or they can oversee both the paperwork and provide meals. So some sponsors will give you an option, some sponsors only go one way or the other. So just to think about these options, obviously if you work independently with the state agency, you have total control over how you run the program, obviously within the federal and state guidelines. But you decide how you would prepare meals or obtain meals. You would decide what kind of record keeping system works well for you. You would manage your own budget. You would get the funding directly from the state agency and do everything on your own. Working with a sponsoring organization, they would do many of those things for you. And so that can often get you up and running much more quickly. And if you are new to child nutrition programs, that can also really be helpful because they're experienced with just how the paperwork works, how the budgeting works. And so that can take the burden off of you if you just want to focus on your after-school program. But again, sometimes you can run into the issue that there isn't a sponsor in your area that has the capacity to take you on. Or maybe they're the kind of sponsor that doesn't provide meals and you really want to work with someone that does provide meals. Or maybe vice versa, there are only sponsors that provide meals, but you want to work on your own meal prep. So it's just thinking through what's going to work for your capacity and your interest and how much control you want to have over the program. So once you've thought about that, and if you do want to go the route of finding a sponsor, you can contact your state agency. So that website there, I know it's a weird link, but again, you'll get this afterwards and just be able to click on the link and follow it. That way you can look up your state and they'll tell you what agency oversees the child and adult care food program in your state. So you can get in touch with them and say that you want to find a sponsoring organization that will allow you to serve at-risk after-school meals. That's the formal name of the program. Or you can use the National CACFP Sponsors Association Find a Sponsor search tool. And it's pretty easy to use. Again, click that link, search for your state, and they have a whole list. Under that list, they will only list member sponsors. So this isn't going to be a complete list of all of the sponsors in your state serving your area. And also they'll list out some sponsors that only work with family daycare homes. So you'll want to look for a sponsor there that says sponsor of unaffiliated centers. But that is another option for you if you are looking for a sponsor that may be able to take you on. Another option is to ask your local school nutrition department. So that's usually a department within the local school district. And so especially if you are a program that operates at a school or is affiliated with a school in any way, this can be a really good route to take since they may be able to just serve meals out of the cafeteria at the school and your program can go and get meals there. It's possible that the school is actually already serving after-school meals and they just don't know that your program is there and you don't know that they're there. So that's an option to pursue if they're not offering after-school meals. By contacting them, they may be interested in starting. They may just not know that there are programs out there that are interested in this. So those are 3 options for you. And then if you're interested in participating in the Child and Adult Care Food Program independently, working directly with the state agency to offer after-school meals, then you're going to want to contact the state agency. And if you go that route, then they can tell you about any training opportunities that are available. Oftentimes they'll ask you to attend a training before you work on the application, and then they can also tell you a little bit about the application process and the form that you would need to fill out. So I just want to let you know that we have some resources available on our website that may be able to help you. If you go to our main page, you get to the after school program page under programs. We have an FAQ resource, so it covers some of the information that we discussed today in a much more condensed format. So if you want the Cliff Notes version of what we discussed in this webinar, you can just download that, and it gives you those next steps for getting started that we just covered. And if you want some more stories of what other programs have done, this is one example. We have a case study about a library that offers after-school meals, and they also serve summer meals, and it talks about how they work with a sponsor that provides those meals to them. So, you know, it just is a different way to see what this program actually looks like in real life. And so there are a lot of other things like that on our website. And if you prefer to listen to things, we have a lot of webinars about after-school meals. You can scroll through our webinars page, but this provides some direct links to just the ones about after-school meals, since we also do a lot of webinars about summer meals and school breakfast. So that is it for this. If you have any questions or need additional resources, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at bestpractices@strength.org, or again, you can visit our website for more resources. It's bestpractices.nokidhungry.org. Thank you.